Well, FC Naples, technically still undefeated. This goes down in the record books as a 1-1 draw after extra time. FC Naples falls out on penalties after going toe to toe with a historically really good USL Championship side in the Tampa Bay Rowdies, losing 8-9 on penalties. It took them 10 rounds of penalties to get us, but we finally go out. Welcome back to Forza Naples. This is Ian, joined as always by Paul and a special guest today with Michael. Michael, let's start with you. What did you take away from that Open Cup match?
Well, first, thanks for letting me be part of the show as a guest tonight. I've been listening to you guys since your first episode, and I really appreciate having that insight about Naples. So it gives me some another way to find out about the team and understand more about what's going on with this new team. But yeah, as it's heartbreak. Uh, the Open Cup is a great opportunity to grow as a club. Obviously, there's a speculation that the next team would be an MLS side, and you'd always want to have that opportunity to either travel to a big stadium as a new team or to host. And it just didn't fall FC Naples' way.
Yeah, late last penalty. You got to feel for Cisneros there. He put in an absolute shift, just all over the pitch, all game long. Tired legs, and I think just came a couple inches too high on the goal. Otherwise, that's going top shelf. Paul, you were at the game as well. What did you take away from it?
Kind of the same thing. Like Michael said, we would have ended up getting Orlando City, most likely. That's who the Rowdies ended up drawing. Um, I think that the biggest takeaway was we can play with these guys. I thought we were the better team for most of the game. There were moments where Tampa looked better and took advantage of some of our mistakes, and I think we talked about that in the previews that Tampa would be able to capitalize, and they didn't. We were able to recover a couple phenomenal saves by Delgado. He has not been tested the way he was last night, and we've been singing his praises, but he hasn't had to do a whole lot. He's had a couple good saves throughout the year. But he got peppered last night, and he was up for it every time. Um, and yeah, just the off the crossbar at the end. Thought Heckenberg's penalty wasn't great. Not really. He was really the only one that did something fancy. Everybody else just kind of stepped up and drilled it home. He tried to get fancy, um, and got saved. The tough thing with penalties, and I've never really felt this way because I don't think I've ever watched one go this long with a rooting interest. I think like normally it's just kind of like I think the World Cup was the last one that went this long, where you don't really care who wins. And it's kind of just the unfortunate thing where you're stepping up knowing you can't win. In rounds 5 through 10, we were stepping up to not lose, and that was kind of just like a weird feeling as a fan in the stands. Um, but overall, I think the takeaway should be positive. I think the fans were disappointed walking out of the stadium last night, but 24 hours later, with some reflection, all the questions we had about this team got answered in a positive way. So overall, feeling positive.
Yeah, I think to go toe to toe with a USL Championship side. Now they have been struggling to start the season. New coach. It seems like they're starting to turn a corner. The Rowdies, and start making a push. It's still early in their season. I think they've played half the amount of games we have this far into the season. But to go toe to toe with them, and the start of the game, watching it from a distance and watching it on TV, it was. I don't think we were fully in it. I think we came out a little spooked and showed them almost too much respect. They scored, and I said to myself, "Oh, this is going to be a long night. No one's looked that good against us." And then we responded right away, just to respond within 2 minutes. I just looked it up. I think we've trailed a total of 32 minutes this entire in the franchise's history. So 30 minutes against Chattanooga in the first game, and then 2 minutes. I guess it was even a minute and a half last night against the Rowdies. But we responded right away, and I don't think you could ask for a better performance after we responded. And then it seemed to be all Naples for the the rest of the match until maybe the last 5-10 minutes of the second extra time. We had the chance late that got cleared off the line by Forrest Lasso, who was a great player for them. I think he's like 4-time USL Defender of the Year. So if it weren't for him, we win that game in regular time, and we're sitting here waiting for Orlando to come to us. But yeah, absolutely, all positives from the night. Heartbreaking, but it happens, and now we got to shift to back to the league, and let's go win the Jägermeister Cup. How about that? Who cares about the Open Cup?
The MLS teams
So,
don't care. We don't care.
so, Paul, I wanted to say one thing about what you said about feeling like Naples was the better team on the night. I had an opportunity to ask Tampa Bay Rowdies interim head coach Steve Coleman a question after the game, and I was being giving him credit, being generous, and saying, "Oh, I felt you guys were the better team because they had won the game." And he was shocked to hear me say that. He goes, "Really? You thought we were the better team?" And I was, look, at the end of the game, Naples was gassed, and Farine and Cisneros were both just they couldn't move. Cisneros didn't start cramping up as much as he did, but you could see he didn't have the legs to keep up. And Tampa Bay in extra time and towards the end of regulation really were pouring it on, and Naples was just absorbing pressure. And I agree, Delgado just stood on his head and made some great saves.
Yeah, I think the final few minutes of the first half, I was kind of holding my breath, kind of waiting for that dagger. And then the final 20-ish minutes, same thing, where just kind of had that feeling that Tampa Bay had the fresher legs. And that's something we talked about last week too, or earlier this week, was that they were going to have better quality coming off their bench. Um, but Ian Cerro had a phenomenal game for us too. He was all over the pitch. We talked about Matt Poland needing to have something creative, and bringing him on, I think, really kept that game at 1-1 for the final, 60-ish minutes that he played. Was incredible.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
been calling for someone to step up in the midfield, and I think he's finally starting to show he's that guy that can really step up and take control of the middle third.
So Ian, who do you think? I was surprised that Cerro didn't start, and Perper got the start. Now Perper got the goal, so that's a good thing. But I thought Cerro was more of the starter, and I agree. When he came on, it looked completely different and it looked more dynamic.
Yeah, it seemed like we kind of adjusted to a more of a 4-3-3, where we've been playing more of the like 4-1-3-1 almost, where the three and the three were more defined, I thought, where he had Farina and Onan playing closer to Henderlong than the midfielders. But I thought it worked, and we've complimented Matt Poland before, and we'll do it again. His shift game to game has been refreshing to see compared to all these teams across the country and across all of world football, where it's the same formation week in and week out. We're gonna play that way against everyone, where he's adjusting to the competition.
Yeah, I thought another guy we didn't talk about in the build up, and we talked about it, I think, right after. I was like, oh, I should have mentioned Onan. Like, this is his moment, because I think, from that first game, we saw the quality that he can be, um, in an unbelievable cross to set up the the goal. Um, and I was really surprised he was able to stay in that game. I really thought he was going to pick up a second yellow. I thought Matt Poland was going to be forced to pull him early in the second half. Um, he picked up the cheap delayed restart yellow, and in the 80th minute, that's a good good card to take. The 8th minute, not don't love it as much. Don't love picking up one of your wingers, who's fairly aggressive, and I think just the way he was mouthing off to the ref, he could have at any point picked up the second yellow, which then brought me to, do we have a named captain? I looked at the sheet and I didn't see one on the ESPN app. I didn't see anybody wearing an armband, for either side. Um, and I was wondering if that's like a USL thing where they don't do the captain thing, or if it's, because you see in European football, like you get away with that when you're the captain. You do not get away with that when you're anybody else. And Bassett for the Rowdies picked up a yellow card for what appeared to be mouthing off to the ref, which was minor in comparison to what Onan was doing all night.
Yeah, I think Delgado was the named captain because I did see him as part of the coin toss for extra time and then for penalties as well. But kind of hard to just scream at the referee for a foul committed in the other team's half when you're the goalkeeper.
Delgado tried with the AR. The AR did have to, or one of the linesmen, sorry, not the AR. One of the linesmen did have to put the stop sign up for Delgado because he was really upset. I think it was there was a hard foul, or maybe it was the delayed restart that they had that they didn't pick up the yellow real late in the game. I thought the ref could have given the yellow there, but yeah, the linesman had to tell him to knock it off because he was yapping pretty loud himself.
So then, Ian, I got, you mentioned Cisneros missing the PK. And we were talking about this last night after the game. The number of windows that Poland had to make his substitution. So I'm looking at the chart from last night. 69th minute was he took off Kevin O'Connor. 80th minute he took off Perper for Cerro. Then in the first stoppage extra time period, he brings off Glasser, brings on Gustavo Fernandez, and then he did have another opportunity for a substitution. 113th minute, he brought off Farin to bring in Pashnik. By that time, I think that was my question to you last night. By that time, you knew that Cisneros didn't have any legs. And I know Sulia is not a wingback or a fullback, but he is a defender, and that's going to be that one that bites him in the ass.
Yeah, it's a tough choice to not have a like for like sub there, I think. But I'm curious to know if there was any conversation there between him and Cisneros. If Cisneros was like, "No, I'm good. I want to stay in the game. Like, let me get through this," or if there was any talk of it even, because yeah, you could tell he was, and I think Cisneros has played in just about every single one of our games in that position, and for the majority of, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's played most of the minutes this so far this season. It's tough. I mean, we're what, 9 games in now at this point. But yeah, I think that's the moment because it's three moments per the game, and then you get an extra moment for the extra time, but then the halftime interval of the game and then halftime of the extra time they were saying does not count as a moment. At least according to the CBS Golazo broadcast that I had on. So hopefully that's the correct ruling, but I have not done the research myself to know.
I think the other thing too is, you're usually worried about who are going to be your five. I can't imagine Matt Poland is sitting there thinking in the 115th minute that we're going to need 10 PK. Like that thought can't be crossing a manager's mind. Who's going to be my 10th taker? And Tampa had a couple late pushes that were kind of hold your breath, and then we had the opportunity late too. A couple, I wouldn't say any great chances, but there was an opportunity at the end where we could have found a winner in the 120 plus. 5 extra minutes has to be close to a record for extra time. I mean, you're getting a third of the time came back because of all the injuries.
Yeah, which at that point, after the 120th minute, it seemed like both teams were just like, all right, let's just get the penalties. If I was president of FIFA, I would mandate no more than 1 minute per extra time period. Because at that point, 120 minutes, 125 minutes, it wasn't going to make a difference. That game was going to PKs from that point on.
Obviously, you did not watch the Man United game today. They might have a different feeling. They scored 3 goals in the 115th minute plus to come back from 2 down and win 5-4.
Yeah,
They were
as a Harry Maguire hater to it, that goal in the 120th. It did happen
okay.
120th plus one, so my point still
Okay,
stands.
all right.
But that could not have happened to a worse person, in my opinion. Him scoring that late on. Yeah, I was pretty gutted as someone who does not like Man United.
So it'll be interesting, right? So I think we were really gassed up about this tournament. Obviously, we were not the favorite to win. Um, the betting odds also showed that the Rowdies were a minus on the three-way, which means that they were pretty heavily favored. Um, we go toe to toe with them. Unfortunately, my 11-1 Naples and PKs did not cash. Um, but now it's time to shift focus, and we get a Knoxville team who's also going to be coming down with tired legs after playing 120 minutes themselves and having to travel halfway across the country, if not a little more. Um, and it
Yeah,
was
not
chilly last night, but um, still
not
different.
and we're not playing at altitude like Colorado Springs. Knoxville went to extra time against the defending USL Championship champions. Say that five times fast. Colorado Springs switchbacks. They did score in the second minute, and then Colorado responded until the second half, 49th, 82nd, it looks like. And then Knoxville got the equalizer in the 84th, and then Colorado took them down in the 104th minute to win that one 3-2. They did have a red card. Uh, One of their players, it looks like, I don't even want to try and pronounce his name. The goal scorer, though, Stavros Zarakostas, who does seem to be having a good year for him or for Knoxville so far, but gonna be tough for Knoxville coming off of that another heartbreaking loss, and then like you said, Paul, traveling across two time zones out of the mountains and into the sunshine to come face top of the league Naples.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what both teams do with lineups. This will be for wow, I said Forest. This will be Naples' third game, in 7 days. Um, with the extra time, the emotional gut punch that they got. We talked about it Tuesday of squad rotation. I think that we're gonna have to see that in some form Saturday, and I imagine Knoxville's going to have to do the same.
I'll add one thing. Normally, after a gut punch game like that, players will say the same thing. They're like, "We just want to get back on the field and get back to winning ways." So that'll be the one thing that the players have to look forward to, as far as saying, "Okay," and it's going to happen from both sides. Yes, Naples is the beneficiary of not having to travel, but so that's going to be the one thing they can do a regular recovery today, and be in a better shape because Knoxville has to travel, then do the recovery, and then they'll be coming on tired legs.
Yeah, after our only two draws, I guess, in club history, which does sound a little funny to say. Looking back, after the 1-1 draw home opener, we won 2-0, and then after the 0-0 draw against Portland, we won 3-0. So I think this team definitely knows how to respond after not picking up all 3 points. So I would expect nothing less than them to come out firing on all cylinders, and like you said, Michael, they want to get back out there, want to get back to their winning ways and continue this great league form. It stinks that we're out of the cup, but we still have a whole league season ahead of us and a whole nother competition that we're part of that'll start next week. And just get back on the horse and let's go.
Yeah, and I think Tampa lost to Charleston 2-1, so it's not like we should feel confident and not to look too far ahead, but there should be some confidence from this loss or loss in penalties, that the Jägermeister Cup is something that not only can we compete but can be successful and see what happens, because it's group stage first, right? It's a group stage and then moving on. So we'll get a shot at revenge against the Rowdies, um, 4th of July, I believe, at home
Yes.
again. So Um, yeah, a lot to look forward to. No concerns from me. I didn't want the squad rotation to be seem like a backhand or anything. I think that this team can respond. Um, we have the quality to do that, and not everybody's going to need, you know, does Henderlong need a game off? I don't think so. But maybe some of the guys that put some serious miles, especially in the midfield, um, but Sarro could start, and he's shown that he is easily. I think Michael, you said it. Could be a starter, match in, match out. Um, so I'll be curious to see what Matt Pullen's got once again. I feel like we're gonna say that a lot this year. Is what's Matt Pullen gonna bring?
Yeah. It seems like we're also the deepest in the midfield. So those are the guys that seem to have the most miles on their legs. Outside of the back four that have just been rock solid all year. Um, but I think with Torreas came on and he showed he can play. Ian Sarro again, like you said, Michael came on and had a great performance. And Pasnick too has been great for us in the midfield all year. And Rubenstein's young, unproven. I thought he had a good game against Little Rock a couple weeks ago. So even him coming off the bench, for the final 30 minutes, I've got no problem with. Um, it's tough to see because I don't think overall the squad we don't have that many players. It's not like the European teams that have 20, 30 guys like a Chelsea that's got all of these great it's huge roster and stuff. Like it's a pretty tight squad and it's definitely a challenge and we've said it every week. The opening run of fixtures is tough. It's a tough schedule going Saturday, Wednesday every other week.
Yeah, I thought what Naples did well last night in so it seemed like when they had the wind at their back, they did a really good job playing through the midfield. So I think that was the first half of both regular time and extra time. Um, and I think that that'll be something to see. We talked about it their last game. They had a lot of hopeful balls. The first half, it looked like they were playing deliberate passes, moving the ball really well. Then in the second half, it looked like they were just trying to hit those home runs, which I thought was interesting that they were doing that into the wind. Um, that's kind of the first time I've seen watching soccer that you know in person how the wind was really killing some of those long balls, or how tough with the wind at your back, how much further they were going. Um, so it's almost like Matt Pullen listened. I was giving us props in the first half. It's like, oh, they listened. They're playing through the midfield more and opened a lot of chances. So I'll be curious to see which style they revert back to. If they're going to play more through the middle, or if they're going to go back to sending long balls and hoping Onan or Farin can outrun the defenders, which I think in USL League One play they can do that a lot more often.
Absolutely.
The
Yeah.
speed on the edge for the Rowdies, there were some times. I'm trying to see what the guy's name was. Um, I'm not going to even try to pronounce his name. It was
I
number,
know I know exactly who you're talking about there,
yeah,
the right back.
yeah. I mean, he just put so much pressure in the speed from a guy that big. Um, I was surprised that he didn't spark something where and they had a lot of shots that everybody kind of was, ooh, like thought that they could have been scored, but you know, they all ended up as goal kicks. So how dangerous were they? You know, from right to left or left to right goal kicks, not just missing on the near post. So um, once again, really proud of the back line too. We're bouncing
Yeah.
back and forth between preview and review, but um, yeah, the back line once again stood tall. I think Michael, I think you mentioned it pre-show was that you know there were a couple mistakes that Naples made that um, you can't do against the Rowdies team. That they gave away the ball a little too easily in our third, and luckily we didn't pay for any of those mistakes.
No, and even I remember one moment in extra time, Naples was just absorbing pressure. It was when the Rowdies were attacking the side that where the PKs were being taken. Uh, Naples absorbed the pressure. They finally got the ball. I forget who tried to clear it, and it might have been Glasser, uh, or it could have been Gustavo Fernandez. But whoever tried to clear it just cleared it, and it made it 30 yards out, and went right to another Tampa Bay player. And you're like, no, this was when you're supposed to just slow down and have confidence in yourself, and it just didn't happen.
That was when we were going into the wind. Like I was saying, that they did try, some just long passes that were to nobody. But yeah, I think that, yeah, overall still a wonderful, wonderful performance that we can take and use the momentum. It's weird saying that after ultimately a loss, but being able to take some of the momentum and all the positives that we had, and just put a pounding on Knoxville Saturday. Um, I don't think I'd want to be Knoxville coming to the top of the league team, coming off their, again, we're gonna call it a draw because that's what it was after 120 minutes, but coming off their first um, loss and having to face a team in a loss too where there was a lot of confidence built, not just a beat down or anything.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of good things to take away. I do want to put a challenge out there to any of the players that I know like to listen to our show. I don't know if there's any, but I'm going to assume they all love our show. Um, but a challenge. I want to see a goal from outside the box. It seems like all of our goals have come the same way, and they've all been very nicely worked goals. There's nothing wrong with that, but I just want to see, a wonder strike from outside the box. And I think I had said earlier in the year, that's something we're lacking that creativity almost in the final third, where it seems like we've been so drilled into we're going to take the ball down the wings, beat teams with pace, and then just play a good ball into the box and get someone on the end of it to finish, which has worked wonders. But I'd love to see a goal from outside the box.
Yeah, we had a couple attempts that's all you could call them. No pace, no challenge of the keeper, but they did at least try last night. Obviously with no success. It didn't really put any pressure on, and it could just not be our strong suit. And Matt Poland realizing that of, hey, that's not something that we are particularly good at, so we're not going to do that. And this is adding to the challenge of prove me wrong.
So yeah, I'm curious who you got your money on? Who's gonna get that first outside the box goal?
That's a great question. I'd love to see. I think Perpa is capable, and we saw his finishing ability last night, where it was just a clean finish for his goal. Onan, I think, wants it the most, and I think Onan is also capable. Having when we announced him as our first signing, went back and looking through some of his history and seeing what he was able to do at Madison and Lexington in the past seasons. I think he could also be the one to get it and just you know take a touch outside of the foot and one of those where it just opens up for him, buries it top corner. Any predictions from you, Michael, for this goal that we're dreaming up?
You know what? I was gonna go with an odd pick, but I think Heckenberg. I think because he's
Yeah,
he's always going to be, he's going to be that late runner into the area, into the attacking area. It's going to be, and look, these are some of the chances that probably could have been taken better yesterday. You get a corner kick that's getting cleared, or a defensive, defense is just trying to clear a ball and it drops to the right guy, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna, just take it up and try to nail it because put it in a dangerous area.
yeah. To go off of that too, Dangler and Evans penalties. Oh my gosh, just burying it top corner. So off of that, most of the time they're in the box, but if one of them's making the run back and it falls to him at the right time, after just a mess in the box off a corner, it could be one of them too. They showed their finishing ability is all there with the feet, not just the heads.
So I'll say one last thing about the PKs. Great moment for Naples as a club. Cisneros obviously gets his shot saved, and the team went all out to console him, make sure they realized, hey, it's not on you. You gave it your heart out. Again, the guy had no legs left. I don't think anyone expected him to have to be the guy to take that last PK. I guess it goes back to that question of, does Poland do something crazy and just be like, hey, Delgado, you take it before Cisneros has to.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to the keeper on keeper PKs.
That's the first thing your
Um,
mom said after the game when I went up to say goodbye is I was looking forward to the goalies. Yeah, and another positive too for the club was how many people stayed. I saw, um, we were walking around to the team shop in between full time and extra time, and I saw a couple people leaving. I was like, it is a Wednesday night, work night, school night. Curious to see when I come back around what the bleachers are going to look like, and really those must have been the only few people that were trickling out because it was just as full towards the end, and seeing the mad dash because we win the toss, we pick the side with Libera 239, and then some smoke flares or something goes off, and the referee says, "Yeah, we're not doing it down there." So then the mad dash that was to that end is now returning, and the mad dash back to the other end was, and then just seeing that fan group walking through the beer garden, getting ready to be loud, and you know that's got to be an atmosphere too that the Rowdies can't see very often. Even
no.
in the championship, that group was loud, had the drums banging, the flags waving, start to finish. So, um,
Which and shout out to Delgado because he knew exactly what he was doing. I have never seen a goalkeeper or anyone really walk as slow as he did after the toss down to get ready for the goal in order to get all the fans down behind the other goal. You saw all the players pointing at him and telling him to run down. They started walking, and then Delgado was just dragging his feet all the way down to give them plenty of times to get set up in the bleachers. Michael, I think you texted me too. Over 3,400 people in attendance.
Yeah, 3,418 was the official announced number, and it felt that way. It felt, and Paul, I couldn't see it from my vantage point, but I didn't see it. It wasn't like there were 3,000 Rowdies fans that came down, and this was a Naples crowd, and hats off to the Naples faithful for being there on a Wednesday night. 2 weeks notice to get to clear the schedule. Ian, obviously, you knew how hard it is to clear that schedule. So no,
it
great
was
great
very
energy.
similar to the Portland game where there was the one section, the same section that had a good amount of Rowdies fans. But I would say that Portland had more fans than the Rowdies did. I saw the one lone straggler in the beer garden with a group of Naples fans that was wearing his Rowdies gear. But Michael, you're absolutely right. It did feel 90% Naples, maybe 85 Naples, and 5% didn't care. Um, and then 10% Rowdies. There was
Yeah,
no corporate group in the box, so that probably hurt the number by about 50 or 100. So I imagine selling a corporate, party or event on 2 weeks' notice is probably on a Wednesday is probably a challenge. So that box was empty. That deck was empty. That was really the only noticeable difference between the other games, other than the parking. I texted you, Ian. I ended up having to pay for parking because there was no. We circled the free lot there, and I was like, I'm not looking any harder. I'm just gonna pay the $10. It's worth it.
yeah. You also texted me, I think, at the start of extra time, saying you need another beer, but they hadn't reopened the
Yeah,
beer cart.
I think we need to have a discussion with whoever runs the U.S. Open. So tell me how you're gonna stop beer sales with 15 minutes left in the game. Get it. Understand, you don't have, hockey stops at the end of the second intermission. I get that there needs to be a cutoff point, but if the time's 15 minutes, why can't it be at the end of the halftime of extra time? That's still 15 minutes. Like you're still guaranteed, this isn't a sudden death
No
situation like
golden
hockey
goal.
opening.
Yeah,
You know, they could have easily, and that's definitely not a Naples thing. That's got to be a U.S. Open or a USL. That's got to be some rule by some football body that doesn't understand how time works, I guess. Um, yeah,
But
that
now, don't they reopen the beer garden after the game is over, though?
yes.
They do.
You're seeing
They do.
another issue with the logic of the 15-minute rule. But I'm gonna guess that that turns more kind of like the Cove there, where that's open too. It's like any other bar. They do the live music. I don't know if it was opened after the game. I wouldn't say that we made a mad dash, but we left 5 minutes after the last kick, and it didn't seem like they were reopening the beer garden last night.
Yeah, probably not expecting a lot of people. It was already what 10 o'clock by the
It
time
was 10
the
o'clock.
penalties ended. I don't think they were expecting a lot of people to stay for live music at 10 o'clock on a Wednesday. And don't forget we're also in Naples, Florida. Not exactly a nightlife capital.
I think
Um,
the beer garden is the latest bar open in
Mm.
Naples on Saturday nights when there's a home game.
so David Applegate, commissioner of the U.S. Open Cup. I know you listen to our podcast. Reopen beer sales for extra time in the Open Cup. There you have it.
There
Especially
you
just to
go.
calm the nerves, you need something there. Uh,
Who do we think the more proud parent was of the Fernandez brothers? Obviously both were subs. I thought Fernandez, Gustavo played well, um, but he scores the penalty. His brother doesn't. Um, I was thinking when he was stepping up, I was thinking if he misses this, they're going to be in the backyard all summer. And their dad's going to be the keeper. They're going to be practicing those penalties. Um, but I you got to think the parents were a little more proud of Gustavo in the car ride home.
So, can I add? I have been, covering soccer in the New York area for about 15 years. So I actually covered Leo Fernandez as a Stony Brook Seawolf in his college days, and then saw him play with the Cosmos and then with Philadelphia Union. So I heard you guys talking about them last week, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I complete until I saw him on the field, I was like, wow, that's the same guy for like however many years ago. Crazy to think about that. But yeah, I agree. Leo, uh, he looked good, but it definitely looked like a guy who had played in the MLS years ago. This is the fitting place for his career to end. He's a sub, comes in to play the last 30, 40 minutes of a game, light a spark, but nothing special. So I think Gustavo has with his you know ter- with his prospects of playing with Naples and just on that growth trajectory. I think yeah, the family's got to be patting Gustavo more in the back than they are Leo. It's like, hey, you had your time in the sun. Now give it to your brother.
I love it.
As two
And
big
and
brothers, between me and you, and being the big brother, you know how that feels when you've graduated and moved on, and your brother is still kicking around in high school at
yeah,
home. Um,
little
yeah,
siblings always get all the more love anyway. So that's
yeah.
exactly where I thought you were going with that question was, we're always the odd man out. No one's coming to watch our games when the siblings are playing their games. Well, Paul, anything else you want to add before we go?
No, again, tough loss, but all positives. The next morning, all positives, ready to keep going after it, and fortunate that we only got to wait, 72 hours to get another crack at 3 points and keep our dominance in this league.
Yeah, keep picking up points like we've been saying all year on this show. Keep racking up the points and stay on top of the table. Michael, anything else you want to add before we go?
Yeah, I was looking at the table as we were talking, and Spokane was a good victory for Naples on the road. Richmond, obviously a big victory. Knoxville is the only other team that Naples is going to play that's in the top half of the bracket so far. So that's the one thing that you do have to worry about. Naples looks great, looks dominant, but again, playing against all the teams that are at the bottom, the bottom five teams in the bracket as a majority of your games. Let's see how Naples does. This is going to be the first time they're playing back-to-back teams. Actually, all three of these games this week going to be teams against really tough opponents. Are they going to be able to show their true characters and their ability to really be top of the league, Naples, or are they going to all of a sudden kind of be be woken up? I guess that's the question.
Yeah, Knoxville's the only other unbeaten team in the league as well. So something else to be on the lookout for. If it, I guess, if it ends in a draw, one of these teams not going to have that perfect record unless it ends in another draw. But yeah, Knoxville, another real big test for us, and they're going to be a little fresher, even though they're coming off that long flight from Colorado Springs, having only played 3 games so far, compared to our 6. Michael, do you want to talk about your legitimate podcast? It's a little bit bigger than our little Forza Naples podcast here as well.
I appreciate the opportunity. I don't know how relevant it's going to be unless anyone here is an MLS fan or more specifically New York City FC fan. But I've been doing a podcast, Blue City Radio, since 2015. We are creeping up to episode 500, which will happen in about 2 months. So crazy to think that I've been talking about soccer for so long. And as we were doing this show tonight, because this was kind of a spur of the moment thing, and again, thanks for the opportunity. My wife was like, "Well, you talk so much soccer. It's a little bit crazy." So.
Well, it's always nice that we have people to talk soccer to, because I know my wife's the same way, where I could talk for hours or watch soccer for hours, and it's nice to have other people that like to talk soccer as much as we do, I guess. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you guys for joining me as always. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Forza Naples Pod. You can get in touch with the show via email as well. I'll be sure to put that in the podcast description, but it's forzanaples239@gmail.com. No spaces or periods in there. And 239 is the numbers, not spelt out. But again, thank you so much for listening. Up the Naples, and we'll see you after Knoxville.